Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I am John Clark, and the Eagles defense, it is rolling going down to Miami. They're the only team in the NFL to give up 17 points or less in each of the last 4 games, and they sacked Russell Wilson 6 times, hit him 10 times. How did they do it? Let's show you on some tape study presented by Chickies and Pete's. Here's Ike Reese with Fran Duffy.
It is 3rd down and 9. Wilson in the gun. He's back. He's looking. He is hit. He is sacked back at the 15.
All right, well, last week, Ike, you and I sat here at this telestrator, and we looked at the offense and some of the issues, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But I thought for this segment, you and I could really just look at what this Eagles defense has done over the last few weeks. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL through the month of November, and what they did from a pressure standpoint, 6 sacks against Russell Wilson, really, really impressive. And I think they've done such a great job of breaking down protection schemes, something one of your mentors, Jim Johnson, was so good at here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and in order to be a good defense, Fran, you want to be able to dictate to the offense what they're going to do and not have it the other way around. And Jim Schwartz is starting to have some fun with this personnel and some of the things he's able to mix and match and sort of do. And you watch here versus Seattle, the way they're able to set up with this protection right here, and we'll show you on the next play how they play off of this. But this is basically trying to get these offensive linemen, right, to figure out who they're going to block.
Yep.
Eagles are doing a nice job. They got the 0 technique there, the 4 there. Those are the offensive linemen's responsibility. But here's where Jim Schwartz sort of throws a wrinkle in here, adding Nigel Bradham to the box. He has to be accounted for, and this is where Seattle made a mistake.
Yeah, we've seen throughout the course of the league, you look around the NFL, and one of the most popular things that teams do is exactly what you just highlighted. They're going to take 3 defensive linemen and stack them all to one side of the center. So if you think about just cutting the offensive line in half, you're going to put 3 guys over on one side. And now the offense, they're not sure what to do. Do we take this extra offensive lineman? Do we say, okay, we're going to account for this linebacker or this safety up in here in the B gap? Or do we want to go and slide everything this way? Because when you have this kind of a look up front, that's where you have all the potential for different stunts and twists, all things that you've broken down over the last few weeks here on Eagles Game Plan. Here, what we see from the Seahawks is they're going to actually use the guard, Mike Upati. You see them communicating in protection. He's going to block Nigel Bradham. They say, you know what? He's one of the 5 most dangerous guys. Let's account for him. And this plays right into Jim Schwartz's hands because now you've got 5 one-on-one matchups across the board. And if you've got guys like number 91, like number 55, guys who can win quickly, this plays right into your advantage because now you've got one-on-one matchups.
And that's the design in this defense, is that Jim Schwartz is trying to get his best players matched up one-on-one with these offensive linemen. The advantage is going to go to Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, the guys that are more athletic on this side of the football. And you're basically using these guys to tie up blocks so that these guys don't get double teams. And here's what I like on this play, is the fact that Malcolm actually gets into this as well. And this is going to pay off for the Eagles a little bit later. But he's really got that back man-to-man, and you mentioned it. Look at that there. Look at 91. There's not a center in this league that can block Fletcher Cox one-on-one. Great defensive play design to get these guys on this side freed up one-on-one.
Yeah, the offensive guard on the opposite side cannot give help. So you've got Fletcher Cox bench pressing Joey Hunt into the lap of Russell Wilson. Josh Sweat gets credit for the sack running around, but that all starts with number 91. So they ran that look like about 7-8 times throughout the course of the game. Almost every time, save for but once, leading up to the late 4th quarter, Nigel Bradham dropped every single time. Might have been zone coverage. He might have been manned up on the back. He may have been used as a spy against Russell Wilson, but he almost never came. Now we get to late 4th quarter, and you're going to see the same look, right? You've got Fletcher Cox lined up right over the center. You've got Vinny Curry and Brandon Graham this time. Here's Derek Barnett. Now you've got Nigel Bradham walked up right over the B gap, right across from the left guard, Mike Upati. And you could see before the snap, he's communicating with Russell Wilson and kind of double checking, hey, this guy hasn't really come all that much. Do you still want us to account for him, or should we slide the protection this way? This time, Seattle decides to do that. They're going to leave the running back one-on-one with Nigel Bradham.
Yeah, and here's what I love about this play design, is that the whole defensive philosophy of this game, I believe, was to make sure you put pressure on Russell Wilson. He hurts you if he has the opportunity to stand back there, survey the defense, and then ad-lib and extend plays. But if you're bringing guys, if you're bringing opposite colors, he doesn't have these escape routes. And what you're going to get here is Nigel, he's rushing, he's going to be picked up by the back. But here's the wrinkle off of this play. Look at Malcolm Jenkins here. Instead of sitting back, He's going to be a part of the rush. And then you have a nice job of Vinnie Curry getting up the field, Brandon Graham coming over. There's no escape route for Russell Wilson to get out of this sack. Great job of this defense really attacking as opposed to sitting back and letting Russell Wilson dictate.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local tri-state Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it. Welcome back, everybody, to Eagles Game Plan. Mike Quick joining us now. And how do you fix this Eagles offense? Obviously, they're getting healthier this week, but over the last 2 games, they've scored just 19 total points, the fewest under a 2-game stretch with Carson Wentz. What are the big things that you think they need to work on?
Get healthy. How do you get these guys healthy? I think that's the main thing. Once you get everybody healthy, the offensive line, you've had issues there. The skilled position, Jordan Howard, you can go down the list. On the offensive side, you had a lot of problems because you've had to play a lot of substitute guys. I think it all begins there.
But here's the other thing, Mike, and I think it's just as important, regardless of who's out there, you got to stop the self-inflicting wounds.
Yes.
You got to stop the turnovers,
Yep.
the penalties, the things that basically you're hurting yourselves. It's already difficult to have success in this league, to win football games. You make it even tougher when you have penalties at the wrong time. If you're not taking care of the football, fumbles, things of that nature, if you're not in the place you're supposed to be, if it's running routes, if you're not blocking the right guy as an offensive lineman, those things make it even harder to have success. So once you sort of clean up those things, you give yourself a better chance to have success.
And I'll add to that. You're going to have injuries and you're going to have replacement guys that step into play. Yeah. But those guys have to play as if they've been on the field before. You can't go onto the field and then have the level of the play drop so drastically when you're a backup player. That's why coaches spend so much time trying to get those guys ready so when they have their opportunity to play, they don't have to drop off so much in the level of play.
Yeah, and a lot of people just saw Carson being inaccurate and missing throws, but we saw Carson on the sideline go over to some of his younger receivers and discuss the routes.
Yes.
So how much was it the younger receivers sometimes not running exactly where they're supposed to go?
Oh, it's that often. Many times you're going to see him come and talk to guys because they're not on the same page. And when that happens, you have to talk it out. You have to explain where he's expecting them to be, where they were, so that everybody's on the same page.
And here's the thing that young receivers and running backs take time to figure out once they get at this level versus being in the college. You can't do as much ad-libbing. You got to be exactly what a quarterback expects you to be. If a player's call and it's called for you to run a 10-yard in, you don't run a 12-yard in. If you're supposed to sit down at 15 yards on a curl route, you got to sit down at 15 yards, not 17 yards or not 13 yards. And those things get better with time. And I think a lot of focus has been placed at the quarterback position, obviously, but on the young guys, expecting them to pick their level of play up. While some of that is certainly warranted, we also have to be a little understanding that this thing doesn't happen overnight. Mike, you're a former receiver. Getting that chemistry down with your quarterback doesn't happen at the blink of an eye. It takes repetition. And I think I saw it better this week with the young guys out there. And if they can continue to improve, I think the offense will start to reflect in that as far as picking up positive plays.
And offense more than defense, Sean, it's about precision.
Yes.
It's about timing. It's about detailing your work. And the work has to be detailed. And if you're not detailed, just one little off track, it's going to throw the whole play off.
Enemy Intel is brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics at Jefferson Health, the official orthopedics and healthcare partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
You're right, guys. The Eagles' offense needs to play a lot better down the stretch if this team's going to be in the postseason. And this week they play the Miami Dolphins. Now, I know the numbers are not very good. There's no question about that. But the bottom line is this is Brian Flores. He came from New England. And what you see with this defense are a lot of the same principles and concepts you see from the New England Patriots. So what that means? Multiple front looks, a lot of man-to-man coverage, 5-man pressures. So while the numbers are not great and maybe the players aren't that recognizable, the style of defense can be challenging. And I want to show you a play against the Indianapolis Colts. This is something you will absolutely see. It's what we call a reduced front, where you essentially have 2-3 technique defensive tackles, and you have someone covering the center, a 0 technique, and you have 5 across. That's the front. Again, you see New England do this all the time. And you see Jerome Baker, number 55, a very athletic linebacker. He's almost always stacked behind this particular front. And Baker, being very athletic, they use him as a blitzer at times. And your back needs to be very aware of that, because Baker, he'll cover backs, he'll cover tight ends, but he'll rush the quarterback out of this look. And that's exactly what happens here. He rushes the quarterback. Marlon Mack not quite aware of it. And what the Dolphins do here is they have the linebacker on the outside, Vince Beagle. He's going to peel and play Mack in man coverage. So Baker blitzes, no one picks him up, and he sacks the quarterback. So again, we want to be fair, we want to be realistic. This is not a great defense in terms of numbers, but the style of play is what I'm referring to. They're challenging. And the Eagles offense is going to have to execute at a high level to consistently move the ball against this style of defense. It's going to be a challenge, maybe not as easy as you might think.
Yeah, we've seen different versions of Bill Belichick's defense this year, facing the Patriots, facing the Lions, and now with the Dolphins, another one of his assistants. And Carson Wentz has been under way too much pressure the last couple weeks, Mike. What can they do to better protect him against the Dolphins?
You know, we've seen the bad. Now, I'm going to show you the good, because this is an excellent job of protecting him and executing the offense. Everyone talks about execution. It really boils down to that. You're going to get 2 in-breaking routes, and the play is really designed to go to this first in-breaking route to Jordan Matthews. But Miles Sanders does a great job here, John, of stepping up, getting a block, and it allows Carson to step up in the pocket and locate his target. This linebacker is going to drop in the middle, and he actually takes away the initial throw to Jordan Matthews. But because of the protection, Carson's able to step up in the pocket, deliver the throw right here on the end cut, and that's perfect execution. They realize the blitz is coming. Miles Sanders is able to step up. Carson's able to then work the pocket, climb the pocket, and get his throw off. That's execution.
All right, Ike Reese, that Eagles defense, the last 4 weeks, they are balling. They're giving up the fewest yards over the last 4 games in the NFL and the lowest completion percentage. What are they doing so well? And they're also mixing it up.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing they're doing is they're being able to show you man coverage and zone coverage. Last couple of weeks, Chicago, New England, because you got a lot of your players back, Jim Schwartz able to go into a lot of his man coverages. So Seattle comes into this game anticipating getting a lot of man coverage. And I like what Jim Schwartz did with some of these disguises. Right here, we're going to get the inverted cover 2 that they like to run so much. But at the snap of the ball, Russell thinks he has man coverage going on. But I love the fact you got Avonte Maddox, Rodney McLeod. They're basically taking the cornerback spots here, and you got Jalen Mills and Ron Darby going back playing deep halves as safeties. And this is the other sort of wrinkle in this defense where you got a middle of the field safety there to help you out with this deep guy right here. Now, Russell Wilson, as he sees this play develops, here's where he wants to go with the football. You got a nice little, what they call, John, the honey hole here between Ron Darby, Rodney McLeod, and over here with Avonte Maddox and Jalen Mills. This is where Russell wants to put this ball at, and they do a great job. First of all, eyes back on quarterback here with Jalen Mills and Ron Darby. So when Russell Wilson puts this ball up, Ron Darby, because there's no threat here, he's able to come back, break on this ball, tip it up, and then Rodney McLeod gets the interception here. But this defense is all about the disguise and how they confuse the quarterback at the snap of the ball. Russell's anticipating man coverage there. Eagles do a great job in 3rd and long, getting back to the sticks and then playing the ball in the air, creating a turnover, having some fun out there as a defense. It's been a joy to watch this defense play over the last month, because now you can see them play to their full potential when you have so many different players you can throw in the offense.
There's no question that the Eagles defense, and the secondary in particular, has played much better over the last month of the season. But there's a couple of challenges that this Dolphin offense presents. Obviously, we know about Ryan Fitzpatrick, who can throw 4 touchdowns or 4 interceptions. But the thing about Fitzpatrick is he's very aggressive throwing the football, and he can easily throw 40-yard touchdown passes, and in a blink of an eye, you can be down 14-3. But the player that you have to most be concerned about on the edge is Devontae Parker, a former #1 pick out of Louisville. He has all the traits you look for in a wide receiver. He's tall, he's athletic, and he can run. And in this offense, he's the X receiver, meaning that he almost always lines up to the boundary or short side of the field, and he'll have different splits doing that. On this play against the Dallas Cowboys, he's outside the numbers in what we call a plus split. And what he's going to do is run a vertical route. And keep in mind, Parker is 6'3". He's long arms, and he can go up and get the ball. He can make difficult contested catches, and that's just what he does here against Awuzie, the corner for the Cowboys, who's interfering with him as he makes this catch. So this is the kind of play that Parker can make, and this is a fade ball, so this is a deeper throw. You cannot allow these kinds of explosive pass plays if you're the Eagles. So now we're going to take a look at another play where he's the boundary X. This time he has what we call a reduced split. He's inside the numbers, tighter to the formation. So from here, what he'll often run are in-breaking routes, slant-type routes. And this play is a great example of what I spoke about a moment ago. Fitzpatrick's willingness to drive the football and make difficult throws in the middle of the defense. This is a slant ball. Fitzpatrick sticks it right on Parker's hands. Now on this play, he happens to get tackled, but he can also catch this kind of pass and he can stretch it out for a big gain. So the #1 player on the offense for the Dolphins that the Eagles need to be concerned about is Devontae Parker, because he is the big playmaker and he can create those explosive plays that can cause problems.
Yeah, the Eagles defense playing so well, especially the defensive backs. Now, how do you stop a big man at receiver, Devontae Parker, a bigger receiver? It's going to be a challenge.
He is a big man, and he is an outstanding player. And I think it starts with getting hands on him. If you're able to get hands on him at the line of scrimmage, kind of slow him down, disrupt his route, or make him change course. Receivers, we want to be in specific places and run specific routes, and we don't want that interrupted. You don't want that timing thrown off. That is the best way, in my mind. You're going to throw the quarterback off as well as that target, that receiver, if you're able to disrupt him at the line of scrimmage or make him change the course of his route.
And that means Fitzmagic is going to be in the pocket, sitting there sometimes. The Eagles are able to get 6 sacks off Russell Wilson, who can move. And the Dolphins' offensive line has given up the most pressures in the NFL this year. Is this a game where the Eagles' defensive line is going to eat?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly should. And the fact that they're healthy and they're getting extra guys in there, going down to Miami, where the weather can sort of be a factor at times, you're going to need multiple guys rotating in there so that they're fresh come that fourth quarter. And you know Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, he's one of those guys that even when you think you've got him down, he's a fighter, he's scrappy, he's going to continue to take shots at your defense if you're not prepared. But I expect the defensive line to have a good day against this Miami offense.
I think it's an offensive line where they actually can eat, John. I think you're right. But don't sleep on Fitzpatrick. He can move. He will run with the football. And when he gets out of the pocket, and especially if there's an opening in the pocket, he's very good at taking that opening and getting the ball down the field. He's not the greatest of athletes, and he's 37 years old, but he's a talented quarterback.
And we saw what he did last year against the Eagles in the Tampa Bay game.
It seems like we've seen Fitzmagic against us with like 4 different teams.
I think he set a record. I think he set a record for most teams played against the Eagles.
And it's the reason why he's been in this league this long. He may not have all the attributes you're looking for in a quarterback, but the one thing he does have, he's a fighter, he's a competitor, and you give him an inch, he's looking for a mile.
All right, we gave you the game plan, how the Eagles can beat the Dolphins. You got to keep Carson Wentz clean. Hopefully the offense can get going. Dolphins defense, they've given up the most big play touchdowns in all of the NFL. All right, thanks for watching Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. If you want more of the X's and O's talk, you can check out the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. And is this the start of a run for the Eagles? If they win out, they win the division. Thanks for watching, everybody. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local tri-state Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.